How many of us know the experience of having shared something that maybe felt a little vulnerable, only to leave that conversation, that interaction, not getting what we wanted? Sometimes it happens where we come and we just wanted to celebrate and be excited about something, and instead our friend possibly kind of cautioned us and said, yes, but, and be careful about this, and have you thought about this? And we felt kind of like dampened. Other times we sound like we're conflicted over something, and we're talking it out loud and talking it through ourselves, and the other person started giving us advice, thinking that they heard us sounding ambiguous and that maybe that they thought that's what we wanted. Come to find out, we didn't want advice. We just wanted to hear ourselves think. Or maybe we didn't even know what we were quite looking for. Maybe we just wanted somebody to be like, yeah, that sucks. That is confusing. And sometimes we come and we just are just wanting to be seen and wanting to talk through something, and instead the other person makes some assumptions and ends up trying to encourage us when all we wanted to do was wallow. There's so many different ways of feeling misunderstood. And in this video, I want to share with you several different ways that we can respond, and several different ways that we can identify what response we actually want. Hopefully this can do two things. Yeah, it can help us really say, what do I need when I'm showing up and talking to somebody? I don't think most of us do that. We just kind of start talking, and sometimes after the fact, when I didn't get what I wanted, I think, what did I want? And I don't always even have that answer right there. So it's interesting how much we talk without even stopping to say, what response do I most need? So hopefully naming these will help you identify what response you need before you share, so that you can actually up your chances of getting that response. But number two, it helps us also have this list in our head where we can do a better job of asking our friends after they've shared, what is it that would be most helpful and feel most supportive to you? Remember, the definition of a healthy friendship is a relationship where any two people both feel seen in a safe and satisfying way. And I believe more often than not that our friends, and ourselves included, we're all showing up really wanting to do that. Nobody's waking up thinking, I hope that they feel really judged when they leave a conversation with me. I hope that I disappoint her after she talks. No, every single one of us is sharing what we think the other person wants, or sharing what we would want in that situation, or just sharing what has been modeled to us. And we aren't showing up wanting to disappoint each other, and yet so often, isn't that what happens? We end up leaving and thinking, that wasn't that fulfilling. I didn't get what I wanted. And if we don't feel seen in a way that feels good, that left us feeling accepted and really valued, it's going to run the risk of us not wanting to be vulnerable in the future. And so remember, when the three requirements of all healthy relationships is positivity, which is feeling good, and then consistency, and then vulnerability. But these three need to work in conjunction with each other, so that when we share a little bit after vulnerability, the response needs to leave us feeling good, so that next time with consistency, when we repeat the experience, we feel like we can share again, and the response needs to feel good, so that we practice these three things over and over and over, almost creating like a spiral. If we end up sharing and it doesn't feel good, we run the risk of stopping that loop, and that relationship has a hard time growing deeper because we or them don't feel seen, and most of us aren't going to want to keep showing up and sharing if we keep continuing to be disappointed, or feeling judged, or feeling unseen, or not feeling good. So I'm going to do a series on all the different ways we can respond. This first video is a little longer because I want to just run through possible options, just to help our brains realize all the different tools in the toolbox available to us. And then on the upcoming videos, wearing the same outfit, you'll be able to find them. I want to highlight the three tools that, if you only know these three, I think they're the three most important ones that we can do. And I'm going to go deeper on each of those three, identify them, and talk about how we can do it. And when we don't know all of our options, these are the three that should be kind of like our screwdriver, our hammer, and our, what's a third tool that we all use? I don't know, the most used tools for responding to our friendships. But in this video, I just want to highlight from a list that I made actually for a mastermind group that I've been a part of. Sometimes we just want a specific action needed. I need this. Would you be willing to make this introduction? Number two, sometimes we just need somebody to listen and to validate. And I'll give you a teaser, that is one of the three, the validation. And that one's actually trickier than many of us think it is. I'm going to talk in the next video about how we can validate our friends, because even when we don't agree, even when we're not comfortable with their feelings, validating is witnessing what they're sharing. And many of us, this is the one we're looking for. Just tell me that you hear me and see me. Number 3. Sometimes people do want advice, or they want particular knowledge. They want to know, what have you heard about this? Or what do you think I should do in this situation? This often, unfortunately, is the response that most of us end up jumping in with. And it's actually not that often that people are asking for that one. So we should always be very thoughtful about asking beforehand, are you looking for advice? Would you like me to share my opinion on this or weigh in? But most people aren't actually looking for that. And so it's good for your brain just to remind yourself that that might be your tendency to solve the problem or to give what you know and to share your knowledge, but that is often not the one. Sometimes it is though, and we need to know, yes, I am looking for advice on this, and name it, and to say to your friends, I would love to hear what you all think of this, and say that if that's what you're looking for. Number 4, sometimes the response we want is just affirmation and encouragement, and we can ask for that. Absolutely. There's been many times where I have said to my friends, I just need all of you to tell me how amazing I am because I'm forgetting it in this moment. Or I just need you to affirm me for this amazing thing I did because I want to celebrate with the people who love me the most. So we can ask for that. Sometimes we do want people to share similar experiences. This might be the second one we tend to practice and go to. Advice giving is a comfortable one for many of us, and sharing our own experiences is a comfortable one for many of us. And spoiler alert, neither of those two are going to be the top 3 tools that I think are most important. These are the ones we are very comfortable with, because when somebody else is sharing something, it immediately triggers the folder in our brain that says, oh yeah, that happened to me once, or oh, I felt that way once. And then suddenly now we're talking about our experience, which can sometimes be the right bonding thing, but sometimes we're just taking the attention off of them and now putting it on ourselves. And so we should ask ahead of time, or we should, hopefully in a mastermind situation, we identify ahead of time. I would like to hear all of your experiences of when you've gone through a breakup, or when you've made a big decision and you're scared to come forward with something. What did you do? Or I would love to hear your experiences of what it felt like for you the first time that you said I love you to someone, or felt like your teenager said I hate you, or so we can all kind of say, I would love to hear your experience. But often that's not what somebody's asking for. So we don't want to just pull up with that tool if that's not the tool that they need. Number 6 is just give general feedback. Sometimes we do want to we're thinking out loud, and we want to be able to say something and just kind of get like, what do you think of that? What's the first thought that lands for you? What are the things that come up for you? What are the questions you have? I just want to kind of flesh this idea out in my head. So interact with me on it. And sometimes we're looking for that. Sometimes we don't want that though. You can see where this is going. Sometimes it's just a vulnerable little brainstorm, and the last thing I want is people's feedback on it right now. Or maybe it's something I already deep down decided I'm going to do. And so I shouldn't open myself up to having other people start kind of pushing buttons or dissuading me, right? And so we need to know ahead of time, why am I sharing this? Where am I at in the process? And what do I really want? Am I open to feedback, or do I just want them to cheer for me? Sometimes we do want people to vote, is number 7. We want them to kind of say, I don't know what to do. What would you do in this situation? Or how many of you think that I should go with this book cover? How many of you think that this is the right, how many of you went to private school versus public school? Whatever we're trying to sort out, sometimes we do kind of want to vote just to kind of try it on ourselves and say, okay, how does that land? Does that change anything for us? Brainstorming. This is another one many of us are very comfortable with. We aren't necessarily trying to solve the problem, but we start saying, have you thought of this? And what about if you do this? And we kind of start giving ideas. And ideas sound so helpful, but again, spoiler alert, this is not one of the top 3. Brainstorming can feel to somebody who's unsure, it can feel overwhelming. I don't want all these ideas. It can feel kind of like, wow, they think I should do all of that. It can feel very heavy. It can feel very exhausting. Sometimes we are just needing to kind of grieve. We don't need to be fixed or pulled out of it or given ideas or inspired. And so that's really important to identify. Other times, that's exactly what we want. I want to plan virtual events. Let's brainstorm. I want to hear all the different ideas of what events you would think would be fascinating. What are all the different topics that you think I should be doing on video, And so maybe that is the right question. Again, I sound like a broken record, don't I? Ask yourself first, what is it that would be most helpful to me? What response do I want? And can I use that word? I would love for all of you to help me brainstorm. I would love for you to do X. And so if we can be clear on that, then we can end our share with the request that we have. Number 9, I love this one. It's very rarely I've ever seen it done, but when it's done, it's one of my favorites, and it's ask questions back. So I've only seen it done well when somebody asks for it, or when you're with a really, really good, trained person who knows how to really examine and go deep and inquire. It's one of the beautiful ones. That's asking questions back. It's, here's what I'm thinking. Would you all ask me questions to help me think it through more? And so we could start asking questions like, I don't know if I want to be with this person. And we can say, would you ask me questions? So much different than give me advice, weigh in, vote, brainstorm, right? Ask me questions. So then as friends, we can say, okay, what does he bring out in you that you love when you're around? And what are the red flags that you see? And when was the first time you felt kind of excited? And do you feel like this is a pattern? Do you always show up scared, or is this an unusual thing for you to be feeling in this setting? And so we can kind of just start inquiring and asking questions that help our friend come up with her own wisdom and hear her self-talk and think deeper on this and bear witness to her process. And so those are 9 different ones. I could probably list several more, but hopefully it just gives you, me, a better idea of just realizing how many different responses there are, how many different tools are in the toolbox. And if nothing else, hopefully it helps us to pause for a moment before we just start jumping in on the first thing that comes to our mind, which is usually advice or sharing our own experience. And those two, again, are not usually the best response, where our friends are usually not showing up, sharing something, hoping for those 2 responses, I should say. And yet we are used to them, we are familiar with them, we're comfortable with them. In the upcoming videos, I'm going to go deeper on the 3 that I think if you only know these 3, they're the 3 to know. But I'm going to also make this list available, and we'll put the link here in the description of this video so that you can get this entire list and use it with your friends and get more practice at the different tools, and maybe even ask your friends, which one of these would you like? And maybe for you to look down the list and say, which one do I want in this moment? And so all of us have the responsibility to do a better job of figuring out what response we want, which is hard right there. But then second, learning how to ask for it from our friends, so that when we leave our friends, we feel like we were seen in a safe and supportive way. They are wanting to do that for us, just like we want to do that for them. Let's up the odds of all of us doing that for each other by getting a little clearer what response would feel best for each of us. I want that for you, for your friendships. Your friends want to love you, and I want you to feel that love. I want you to feel seen in a safe and supportive way. So may this list be of service to you, to all of us. May friendships around the world do a better job of bearing witness and responding in the ways that would feel good to each of us.